We start. All right, so this is lesson 3 in home finance for my grade 12 essential math students. And we are talking about the GDSR, also known as the gross debt service ratio. The gross debt service ratio, or GDSR, will tell you whether or not you can afford the house you've selected. Make sure you spell the right whether or not W-E-A. That'd be like the weather outside. And you know what I'm going to say if you use the wrong one? I'll say that's the worst spell of weather we've had all year. Threw in a dad joke for you. Your GDSR tells you whether or not you can afford the house you have selected. You are not allowed to have a gross debt service ratio that exceeds 32%. That's the number you have to be at or below to afford a house. And who set 32%? I would think that would be more of like a government thing. And the CHMC, Canadian Homes and Mortgages Commission, or Corporation, one or the other. And is it a law? I don't know if it's an actual law. Like, could a bank get fined or pay some sort of penalty if they sold a bunch of mortgages to people where the GDSR for those people was greater than 32%? I'm honestly not sure about that. I'll have to ask my relatives who are in the banking world if that number is like a law or just more or less a rule in the industry. I'll check into that for you and I'll get back to you. The formula is, hey, look at that. That's a big formula. Mortgage payments, monthly mortgage payment, monthly property taxes, monthly heating costs, divided by your gross monthly income. All right, the word gross in everyday language means, ooh, gross. But those of you who have seen taxes and stuff in grade 11 essential, you probably know the difference between gross and net, especially when it comes to the money you bring home. What is the difference between gross and net, really quickly? Gross means what? Total before taxes. I should say maybe total before taxes and other deductions. Taxes and other deductions. Okay, so that's what we mean by gross monthly income. Not your net, not how much you actually take home once they've taken the income tax and the contribution to your pension and the other things that might come off your paycheck automatically. Perhaps union fees if you're a union employee. Those things don't count. Just how much is your paycheck before all that. There is one type of thing that might come off your paycheck that would count, where they'd have to count your gross after that, but hopefully nobody ever ends up in that situation because that would mean some sort of court order happened and your pay was being deducted because of something like a court-ordered, like you're paying off a fine legally or perhaps some sort of child support that you were not capable of paying yourself on time, so the court had to step in and make you do it. If there is some sort of lien against your check like that, then yeah, gross counts after that comes off. But all other deductions, gross counts first. So before taxes and other deductions is called your gross monthly income. Please note that this formula only works if everything's monthly. So if you're given something like, and this is actually the way you'd usually see something like property taxes. Your property tax bill is always the annual amount. So you're going to have to figure out what that would be monthly. That's an easy calculation. How do you turn something annual into something monthly? You divide by 12, correct. Okay, example 1. You would like to purchase a condo for $93,000. You are able to make a down payment of $8,000. The bank will finance this property at a rate of 8.5% over 25 years. Your gross monthly income is $3,000. The monthly property taxes are $125. And the monthly utility costs are $150. Okay, we'll talk about what that means in a sec. First, let's do what we always do and actually find how much the mortgage is. And what is the mortgage amount? You take the purchase price minus your down payment. And you get $85,000. So that's your mortgage. And like we've done in the last 2 lessons, we now have to calculate our monthly payments, which is the mortgage amount divided by 1,000 times the table number. Okay, we got to go look up the table number. 8.5 for 25 years. Go to our table. 8.5, 25 years. Oh, look at that. I already did this calculation when I was doing my notes. 7.95. So that's the number that goes here, 7.95. And when I do 85 times 7.95, I get $675.75 as the mortgage payment. So let's use our new formula. So GDSR equals. So let's go roll back and let's take a look. What's this formula got in it? The first thing is monthly mortgage payment. Okay, we just calculated that. $675.75. Plus monthly property tax goes here. So they already tell us that's right here, $125. Plus, the formula says heating costs. Now, I own a house and my heating costs are separate from something like, say, for example, my electricity bill. But I can kind of control, to a certain extent, my electricity bill. Yeah, I mean, there's a freezer and a fridge that I can't unplug. But everything else is kind of under my control. I could be, being vigilant about making sure I don't leave lights on when nobody's in the room. I could, just put on a sweater instead of plugging in a space heater or something. So they tend to focus more on what you can't control, which is your heating cost. Now, having said that, how about in the summer? Now, in my house, my air conditioning system runs on electricity. And again, I have control over that. If money was getting tight and I had to really start being thrifty and saving, I could just sweat it out and deal with the heat and not crank up my air conditioning. But in the winter, it's like, well, okay, I'll do the same thing. I'll just turn off my furnace to try to save money. Well, no, then your pipes will freeze, your walls will buckle, bad things will happen. So you really have no control over your monthly heating costs. Those are almost fixed things. There's things you can do to make them a little better. We'll talk about that later on this chapter, how to make your house more energy efficient. But one way or the other, you're paying heating bills. There's nothing you can do about that. In my case, I pay for natural gas, so that's separate. But if you had a house where your heating was forced air electric, you had an electric furnace and a fan that pushed it, well then your electric bill is your entire heating and running the fridge and freezer and your computer and your TV and everything, right? In an apartment or a condo, again, all of those things tend to be wrapped together. Your heating bill, your electricity bill, maybe your water bill, maybe even in some cases your cable television and your internet. If they lump those things together, if you consider that category of things you pay to kind of keep your house going, those are called utility costs. So when the question says utility costs, that includes heating. So that's what you'd put for your heating cost. Very often when students are doing this homework, they'll say, well, how do I know how much of this goes to the heating? Well, you just assume that's the fixed bill, right? And that you don't have any control over that. Your utilities are $150 a month, deal with it. Yeah, but my neighbor uses more electricity than me. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. We're in a big building where there's hundreds of people. It all evens out. So in a condominium, you probably pay utilities as one bill. Not necessarily. Sometimes you have a different meter for gas and a different meter for electricity. But very often, utilities is just one bill. And that's what we're going to call our heating costs. So again, you could call this utilities. Specifically, the utility of not freezing to death. There we go. What's the gross monthly income for this person? This is you. What's your gross monthly income? Looks like you make $3,000 every month. All right. Oh, and the formula also has a times 100. By the way, that's what tells you that the answer you're getting is a percent, right? How do you find percents? You go top divided by bottom times 100. So this is going to be a percent. All right, let's find it. Remember that when you're punching buttons on something like this, to always use a bracket. Otherwise, the calculator does not understand that all of this plus has to happen before the divide. So open a bracket. 675.75 plus 125 plus 150. Then I close my brackets, divide by my 3,000, and then times by 100. This should give me my GDSR as a percent. 31.69%. I'll round to two places. What can we conclude from that? People playing on their phones should be paying attention. What can we conclude? I'm going to say therefore. Does everybody know that 3 dots like that means therefore? Okay. Therefore. Yeah, this should be an accepted mortgage. This mortgage should be approved. Why? That is not by a lot, but it's below 32%. That's the number that they can't go over. So there we go. There's your first example. The second example works pretty much the same way. You want to try it yourself. There's two little catches. But I'm going to let you try it on your own. See if you can figure out what the two little glitches are, the two little things that are a little harder than example 1, and see if you can get it yourself. So people watching at home, you should pause the video, give this question a try, and see what you get for the GDSR. I'm going to let people in class have a minute to try it. All right, we're back. So the students in my class here noticed right away that one of the things they're going to have to do is change the annual cost of gas and electricity, which again, this must be a house that has gas and electricity, like maybe it's the furnace has a fan that pushes air, but the actual heat itself comes from natural gas. So they're just calling this, again, utilities. It takes both bills to heat the house. But notice annual means per year. So my first calculation is to divide this by 12, and I get 220. Also, the property taxes say per year. So I got to take this number and divide by 12. So that's 300 every month. That is, by the way, that your property taxes are given to you. You're given a yearly bill, and then you have the choice to make monthly payments, or I actually have mine lumped in with my mortgage payment. So the bank, when I pay the bank my mortgage payment, I pay a little bit more, and that covers my property taxes too. It makes budgeting easier. And the bank takes very, very little of a service fee to do that. Like, it's less than $1 a year, I think. I worked it out once. So totally worth it. All right, next, our GDSR is, okay, so this time, they're actually nice to us this time. They tell us the monthly payment. We don't have to figure it out. $11.45. And it doesn't matter what order I do this in, but what's the formula's order? I guess it does the taxes first, and then the utilities. Does it matter what order those three numbers are added? No. But did you catch the other trick to this question? There's two incomes here, right? We have John and Sarah both work. John is making $2,400 a month, and Sarah is making $2,450. So you have to add those together. And then when I'm calculating, don't forget to put a bracket around the bottom too, or else, again, the calculator doesn't know to do a divide before a plus unless you use a bracket, right? Because remember, BEDMAS says that you do a divide before an add. But I have to do this add before this divide. You could even write a bracket around it if it'll help you remember to punch it in that way. So clear everything else. Open a bracket. 1145. Oops, I only hit the one once somehow. Hang on, my calculator's being very sluggish. 4, 5, there we go. Plus 300 plus 220. Close bracket, divide by, open bracket. 2,400 for his salary plus 2,450 for her salary. Close the bracket for the denominator and equals, oh wait, forgot something. Forgot the percent part. Times 100 equals, 34.33. Therefore, what's my conclusion? They will not qualify for this mortgage? Why not? Because 34.3 is bigger than 32. Now, but it's their dream house. What can they do?
Lower their standards.
They could look for a different house. No, it's their dream house. You're not going to give up on your... Did you learn nothing from the Oscars the other night? We don't give up on our dreams. That little dude from the Everything All at Once movie, that was the coolest Oscar speech ever. Yeah, like a movie I actually like won a bunch of Oscars. That never happens. That movie is great. I love that movie. Anyway, we're not giving up on our dream here, is the point. Okay, we could try to make more money. Okay, well, let's say we're locked in and we've signed contracts. We're locked into a job. What could we do? There you go. We could go back to our bank and say, hey, could we possibly have a smaller mortgage payment if we took a longer mortgage? Because you guys learned the other day when you were doing the mortgage calculations that you'd pay less every month, but you, of course, pay it for, say, 5 years longer, and overall you'd pay more taxes, or not taxes, sorry, more interest to the bank. But in this case, if it's their dream house, that's the sacrifice they're going to make. All right, we're not here for 20 years, we're here for 25. Or maybe we're not here for 25, we're here for 30. Banks will sell 30-year mortgages to people who have good jobs and are young. So that's one thing they could do. What else could they possibly do? They could try to make a higher down payment. That would bring down their monthly payments. So there you go. Right? They could also perhaps even try a different bank. Banks, they're not your friend, but they're not each other's friends either. Banks compete with each other. Maybe the bank that you are dealing with that says, nope, sorry, that's the lowest we can go on this house. Maybe the bank down the street would be willing to go a little lower just to try to get your business. If you have a good credit rating, they want your business. So there's that. All right, so that was example 2. And remember, guys, this is math. You remember how it works. As soon as you learned how to add, they taught you how to subtract. As soon as you learned how to multiply, they taught you how to divide. You square roots. Anything you learn how to do, you should be able to do backwards. So let's go backwards. What if we start with how much money we're using here and how much and how much money we earn, and let's figure out how much house we can afford. Rather than start with the house, then see if we can make it work, like in example 1 and 2, why don't we start with, here's the biggest monthly payment I can make, how much house can I get for that? And when we ask you a question like that, we give you this lovely little, like, fill in the blanks table chart. And here's how it works. Okay, so a person's deciding to buy an $85,000 house, down payment $6,000, the monthly property taxes are $120, the heating costs are $110, and their gross monthly income is $2,500. The bank will finance the house at 7.5% for 25 years. How much house can they buy here? Let's see. Can they afford this $85,000 house? Well, first of all, their gross monthly income is $2,500, so that goes there. It tells you what to do in this chart. I like this. Multiply by the GDSR. So instead of, again, the last 2 questions where we figured out the GDSR, let's assume that the GDSR is at its maximum. How much house can they afford? So we're going to take this number times this number. It even says multiply them. And when you take 2,500 times 0.32, you get $800. And by the way, that actually kind of, that answers the B question, right? Well, not quite. Sorry, not yet it doesn't. This is their total affordable household expenses. We know that this house that we're looking at has $120 and $110 for property taxes and heating. So $120 and $110. If this was a condo, I might worry about a condo or a strata fee. Don't worry about that right now. This one doesn't have it. So what's 800 minus those 2? And if I want to do that, I would do it like this. I would turn on my calculator someday. Come on. Doesn't know this. It's almost like it's almost like a calculator I didn't pay for and that I just like found online. Okay, 800. There we go. Now we're working. I would do it this way. I would just minus the 2 numbers with 2 minuses like that. Keep in mind you could add them together first and then minus the total. Just make sure you don't accidentally minus one, then add the other. I watch students do that every year. Don't let that be you. Okay, so we're looking at $570. That answers one of the questions. That's the biggest monthly mortgage payment they can actually afford. So that's the B answer. Now, we're going to divide by an interest factor. The interest factor comes from this table down here, which we will give you on the test if we're giving you a question like this. So let's see, what was the actual percent again? That's how good my memory is. 7.5%. So on this table, a 7.5% mortgage rate gives you a rate factor of 0.00732. So that number goes here, 0.00732, and then you divide your monthly mortgage payment by your interest factor. So I take my calculator and I go 570 divided by 0.00732, and that's going to give us $77,868.85. And then we did have a down payment, which was $6,000. Add that. Come on, zero. There we go. And we get $83,868.85. Now, which of these two numbers is how much mortgage they could afford? The answer is the first one. That would be the biggest mortgage they could afford. How much, this number represents the highest house price they could afford, right? Because that's before they put the down payment on it. So what did the actual question ask for? You have to read this carefully. It asked for the maximum affordable price for a house, not the maximum affordable mortgage. So they want the second number. So they want the $83,868.85. You have to read these questions carefully. If this question had said, find the maximum affordable mortgage, then I wouldn't have wanted that number. I'd have wanted the first number. Okay? Make sure that makes sense to you. That's an easy mistake to make when you're not reading carefully. All right. And of course, oh, there's a C question too, but the C question is actually kind of a trick. The GDSR, we use the maximum, so it's just 32%. You're not calculating it yourself in this question. It's what you're using in this question. All right, there you go. You've seen me do one. Let's play the game again. Example 4 should work basically the same way. You're going to have to come back and use this chart. So I'll pause the video. People at home, pause it and see if you can do example 4 the way I just did example 3. Okay, we're back. Let's see if we can finish this off. So for example 4, our monthly income is $2,800. Times that by 0.32, you get $896 of available money to live in a house on. Property taxes are $180. Monthly heating costs are $125. This number minus those two numbers is $591. When you go to the table, and again the table was back 2 questions here, it says in the question that you're looking at a 7% mortgage. So you go to this table and you read the 7% number, and I just wanted to point out, make sure you read this table right. Like, this is actually 3 tables together. To be honest, these things should all be in one big long column, but 6 is this much, 6.5 is this much, 7 is this much. Okay? So 0.00700, so that is 0.007. And when you take this number, divide by that number, you get $84,428.57. I add my down payment, which was $12,500, and my final answer is $96,928.57. Now I ask myself, I say, self, which of these two numbers were they actually asking for? What does it say in the question? Determine the maximum amount of mortgage and the maximum affordable price. So we want both numbers, and that's why I think they highlighted both boxes. So they want, that's the mortgage he could afford, that's the maximum house price he could afford. Always read the question, make sure you're answering the question they're asking you. And that's it. You can now go to the homework book and do worksheet 2C. And I haven't got it back from the printer yet, but hopefully tomorrow in your hands will be the next hand-in assignment, which will be just this stuff, 2B. And we'll have some work time for that tomorrow. And that's it. That's the lesson on GDSR.